Hello friends, we are in third video of our ServiceNow integration series where we'll go through inbound integration. In our first two videos, we have already seen outbound integration. In this video, we'll go through inbound integration. And in our first two videos, we have already seen table API, that is ServiceNow provided table API to fetch the data from the tables. But now in this video, we'll create the custom API with the script that is called a scripted REST API. Before starting the video, I'll request all the beginners who are watching this video to watch the video till the end to make the basics clear, because I have seen many people struggling to fix the small issue because their basics are not good. So I'll request to watch the video till the end. Okay, now let's start. In our last two videos, we have seen outbound integration where we have seen there is a source and there is a target, and both the source and target instances we have kept as ServiceNow instances for our example purpose. But target can be anything, that is Jira, Salesforce, any other application. So here from source, we are generating the request, and the target is sending back the response. Okay. Now in inbound, that is reverse actually. The target will send the request, and the source, which is our ServiceNow instance, will process the request and send the response back. Okay. And here have kept the target as Postman to not get confused with the two instances. So from the Postman will make the request, and here we'll write on this instance a scripted REST API, that is the custom API. We can use the table API as well, but the table API will return only the records of the table, right? If we want some other custom data, then we'll write the custom API, so we'll see that as well. And then it will process the request and send back the response back to the Postman. Okay, now let's consider a use case where the customer needs this data in the API response back. That is the number of total incidents, number of total active incidents, number of incidents created in this week, and number of incidents created on today. Okay, then if we make use the table API, then we need to make four API calls, and that too it will not send the number; it will send all the incident records. Okay, that will not be feasible. So if we use the glide aggregate API, then it will return the number back. Then also we need to make four API calls. Okay, that's why we'll use custom scripted REST API, where we'll make only one API call. In the one API call, we'll create the script to send all these for data. Okay. Okay, let's start creating the scripted REST API. For that, we need to type a scripted REST API in the navigation and then open this module. Okay, we'll create the new API. Now, as we are connecting that with the Postman for now, so I'll give it as Postman API. Okay, and it will generate the API ID here, and I'll just save this. Okay, now under the related list, we have the resources here. So here we need to create the API here, actual API. Okay, so here we can create the scripted REST resource with the name, and we can select the HTTP method here. Currently in this API call, in our use case, we are getting the data, so we can keep it as get. But if our purpose is different, then we can change the HTTP method here to post, put, delete, and all. Okay, and here we can give the relative path. We'll see that in some time. And here we can write the script. Okay, so now let's uh, give it a name, get count. Okay, and then here I'll write get count. Okay, this is the relative path. This will be added to our API endpoint. Okay, so we'll see that in some time. Okay, now what we want to send the response back. Okay, so let me just add here. So we have access to request and response, so we can see request and response in the business tools, like how we have the current and previous, same way we have here. So a request will be used when we have the post or put, because we send some request body from there, so we'll get it from this. Okay, and even in the get, we send the path parameter, then we can get that, so we'll see that in some time. But we'll use the response here. Okay, so I'll say response dot set body. Okay, and what is the body? That should be the object. Now what object we want to send? For example, that is total count. Okay, and I'll send as 10. Okay, now let me just I'll just remove this semicolon. I'll save this. Okay, now before we make the actual request from the Postman, we can test it here as well with Explore REST API. That will open the REST API Explorer with this API selected. Okay, and we have already seen in our first video, here the API name selected is tables API. We have selected the tables API, and we have done some actions here. but this is our custom API which we created. We have selected that here in the REST API Explorer now, and we have one function that is get count here. Okay, so now we'll simply click on send. Okay, now this is 200, and we can see in the result we have the total count as 10. Okay, so if I go to the script, so I can see I have sent the total count. Okay, so same way, I'll just add active count. We'll replace this with the script later. Okay, and then created in this week. Okay, then created today. Okay, so this is how we can send. Now we want to get this count from the backend table, right? So for that we'll write a function here. So I'll suggest to write the function outside of this function. Okay, so I'll write get function get count. Okay, okay, now we'll initialize the glide aggregate because we want all the counts, so we'll do glide aggregate here. So I'll say GA, and I'll just make it general, so I'll just make it as a GA task. So I'll pass the table name as the parameter in the function. Okay, then I'll do new glide aggregate, and I'll just pass the table name here. Okay, okay, now we want the query as well, right? Because for total count we don't need to add any query. For active count we want only active equal to true in this week, so that will be a week's query, and this is created on today query. So what we'll do, we'll pass that as a query here. So I'll say query. Okay, and now here I'll add if query. If the query is passed, then we'll add that. Okay, so what I'll say is ga task dot add query, and then we'll pass the query as is. Okay, that will be our encoded query. Okay, now as we want to get the count, so what we'll add, ga task dot add aggregate, that is count. Okay, and then we'll make ga task dot query. Okay, now I will say if ga task dot next, if there is anything present, that will be the count. So we'll return, what we'll return, we'll return ga task dot get aggregate. We have added that aggregate, now we'll get the aggregate, and that is count. Okay, and if we don't have anything, then we'll return 0. Okay, and I'll just add it like this. Okay, now we'll call this function here. Okay, we'll do get count, and our table name is incident. Okay, but we don't have any query here. Okay, because we want to get all the counts. Okay, so I'll just save this for now. I'll go to the incidents table. Let me just go and open. Now we have already the active equal to true query here, so I'll just copy that active true query, and I'll go back here. Now the second count is the active count, that will add get count, and then it's incident, the table name is incident, the query is active equal to true. Okay, same way, in third one we want the count created in this week, so I'll just add incident. Okay, and then I'll get the encoded query from the table here. Okay, I'll just go back here. Okay, I'll say created on, and then this week. Okay, I'll just run this. Okay, I'll copy this, and I'll add that to the script here. Okay, the same way, we'll write get count. Okay, and then incident, and then we want created on today, so we'll just change the query here, and this is created on today now. Okay, I'll copy this, and I'll add this here. Okay, now let me just save this. Okay, Now if I go back and click on send again in the REST API Explorer, now we have the real data here. Okay, the total count is 75, the active counts are 48, and created in this week are 0, created on today is also 0. So let me just go back and check if total count is 75 or not. Okay, so we can see the total count is 75 and the active true. Let me just check. Active is true and those are 48. Okay, so let me create one for today. Now if I go back here, and this is just for testing, so I'll just click on send. Okay, now I'll see created in this week 1 and created on today is 1. Okay, now we can see this is sending as string, so we'll just convert that string to the number. So we'll just add here this get aggregate inside the number function. Okay, now I'll just save this. Okay, now we'll go back to the Explorer again and I'll just click on send. Okay, now we can see now these are converted to the numbers, not the strings. Okay, now we want to pass this table name dynamically. Okay, now we are hard coded the table name here. We want to pass that table name dynamically, and that to the path parameter here. So what we can do is after the get count, so if you go back to the URL, so let me just show you. This is the URL, this is the endpoint, and this is Postman API, that is the scripted REST API we created, and this is the relative path which we added here. Okay, now to this relative path we want to get the table name inside this dynamically. Then what we can do is we can add in the curly braces, we can add the placeholder for the table name. Okay, so I'll just add like this table name. Okay, and now if we want to get that here, then we can get it like, I'll say variable table name is equal to, that is request. Now we are using the request object here, request dot body dot path param. Now this is path parameter, right? So I will say path params dot table name. Okay, so this is how we'll get the table name here, and now we'll use this table name to dynamically pass the table name to our function. Okay, okay, I will just do this. Okay, now this is path parameter. In some time you will see the query parameter as well. Okay, okay, now let's go back and let's refresh this once. Okay, now we can see the path parameter here. Earlier this was not visible. Okay, now I'll just add that as incident. Okay, I'll click on send. Okay, it's saying table name from undefined. Okay, okay, might be we requested this wrongly. Let me just check. Request dot, okay, it should be request dot path params, not body. Body is when we do the, when we add the request body. So now let me just save this again. Okay, now let's make the API call once again. Send. So now this is 200, and we got the number here. Okay, total count is 76, active count is 49. This week one created on today is 1. Now what we can do is we can dynamically pass the different table name here. Okay, I'll just pass the problem, that is the table name, and I'll just click on send. Now we have the result for the problem here. Okay, I can just change the table name to something else like SC task. Then we have that for the SC task here, and I can add the parent table, that is the task table, and I can check for that as well. Okay, so now we have the result here. Okay, now let's call this API from the Postman. Okay, so for that I'll just copy the URL. Okay, and I'll go to Postman. Okay, now we'll enter the URL here. Okay, and this is the get method, so we'll keep it as get. If it is different, then we would have added it differently. Now here we'll have to provide the authorization to this instance, so we'll provide the basic auth. Okay, I'll add the username, that is here, and I'll provide the password as well. Okay, now I'll click on send. Okay, now we have the response here, and we have the total count, active count, created in this week and created on today for the task table. This is the path parameter, right? So if I change this path parameter to incident and click on send, then we have the different result here for the incident table. Okay, so we have the incident table here. Okay. Okay, now we can use the query parameter here to pass the table name instead of the path parameter. So I'll just remove the table name from here. Okay, and I'll add here the key, that is the table name, and the table name value is, I'll add incident. Okay, if I click on send, this will not work because we have not done the changes in the scripted REST API. So let's do the changes there first. Okay, now here in the script we use the path params, right? And we added this path parameter here. So we'll remove this path parameter because we don't want that now. And this will be a relative path, will be only get count. And as we are passing the query parameter, I'll simply remove this path params, and then I'll add query params. Okay, so now this is request dot query params dot table name. Okay, and let me save this now. Okay, now let me just click on send. Okay, now we are using the query parameter here, and we have changed the script as well. Now we have the result for the query parameter. Now if I send here the different one, for example task, then it will fetch me the data for the task now using the query parameter. Okay, we have the data for the task here. Okay, but if someone sends some wrong table here, for example task 123, and if I try to send this now, we don't have any result here, but we get the error here. Okay, so you can see there is an error. Now we can fix this error and send the proper error back. Here we check if the table exists, then if exists, then we'll send this response, otherwise we'll send the error. Okay, for that we'll add one if here, if condition, and we'll use the function in the glide system, that is gs.table exists. Okay, and then we'll pass the table name. If the table exists in the system, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. Okay, so once it returns false, then we'll send the error from here. Okay, okay, we'll use response dot set error function here. Okay, and if we go to the documentation of REST API response, then we'll see the set error documentation here. Okay, and under that we have this set error function, and we need to pass the error like this. Okay, now let me just copy this error and we'll add here. Okay, okay, now this is for bad request error, but will send not found error, right? So here there are different errors: bad request error, conflict error, not acceptable error, and not found error. So we'll say not found error, the table is not found here. Okay, and we'll pass the message here, that is the table is not found. Okay, and then we'll just save this. Now in the Postman we have the wrong table name here. Now on send, and let's see what a response we'll get here. Okay, now we can see the response is table is not found. Okay, and if I send the correct table name, that is task, then it will send me back the correct response here. So this is how we need to handle the errors here. But if you want to send the custom errors, I don't want this, I want to send some custom error, then we can send that as well. Okay, now to send the custom error, what I'll do is I'll create one response body object here, response body, and that will be empty object. If we have the table, then we'll populate that object with this response. Okay, response body dot, and then this total count is equal to, and this. Okay, same way we'll add the others as well. Okay, we have the response body here, so we'll just remove this one. Okay, and we'll simply do response dot set body, and we'll just add the response body here. Okay, this is also object. Okay, earlier we were adding the object directly here, but now we are constructing the object and then we are adding it here. Okay, now in the response what we can do is we have the response http status codes here. There is a documentation and we have different status codes here. Okay, now based on our error we can send the request back. So if it is 400, then it is bad request. If user is not authenticated, then we can send 401. Now if we want to send 404, then we have that is not found, so we have that here. So I'll just go here. What I'll do is first response dot set status. So I'll set the status first, that is 404, and then what I'll do is I'll say response body dot error is equal to table not found. Table not found, and you can add if you want more details, then you can add it here in the response body object. Okay, now same way we'll just add response dot set body, and then we'll say response body. Okay, so if the table is present, then we'll send this, and automatically if we don't add response dot set status to 200 here, then also it is already 200. If it is error, then we'll set the status to 404, and we'll send the custom error here. Okay, now I'll save this. Okay, now I'll just change the table name to something wrong. Okay, and I'll click on send. Okay, now the status is still 404, and we got our custom error here. Okay, so this is how we can send the custom error messages as well. Now this is a get request body, and we are adding the query parameter. But if this is post one, okay, for example, then also we can send the query parameter, but we can send the body as well. Okay, so I'll just show how to retrieve the body there. Okay, so I'll just add the body here, so that will be an object. For example, we can send a object or array. So I'll set table name here, and I'll say incident. Okay, this should be in quotes, I think, and this is also in quotes. Okay, so we are sending the post request body now. So we'll do the changes in the scripted REST API. The first change is we need to change the HTTP method to post here, because now we are making the post call. Okay, and the second change is the table name that we are fetching is from the query parameter earlier, but now that is from the request body. So first what we'll do is we'll get the request body, that is I'll say request body is equal to request dot body dot data. Okay, now we need to get the table name from the request body. So what we'll do is we'll do request body and then dot table name. Okay, and sometimes now this request body we are sending that as object, and that is not stringified. If this is stringified, then we need to add it to the json.parse function. Okay, now I'll just save this, and we'll test it on the Postman. Okay, now we have the post call set up here, and we have added the request body as well. I'll just click on send. Okay, now we have the result here for the incident. Okay, now if I change it to some other table, for example task, then we'll get the result for the task here. Okay, now if you want to restrict this API to certain users only, then we can restrict it using the resource path, and we'll just create a ACL. Okay, now if you go scroll down here, then in the security we can see if we need the authorization. If this is unchecked, then this is like a public API. Without authorization also we'll get the response from this API. So we need authorization. If we need authorization, then we need ACL authorization. Then we have to set this. Okay, currently by default ServiceNow adds this ACL, but we'll create a new ACL for this specific API using the resource path, and then we'll add that here. Okay, so we'll just first elevate the roles and get the security admin role. Okay, I'll go to ACLs. Okay, let me open it in a new tab. I'll create a new ACL. Okay, by default the type is record when we create on the table, right? So it is type record, but now we'll change that to rest endpoint. The type should be rest endpoint, and in the name we'll just pass the resource uh, path. Okay, we have just copied it from here. This is the resource path. We'll just add that here. Okay, and what we'll do, we'll add the role here. For example, I want this to be accessible if the credential used to query this API is of ITIL user. Okay, then only we want to send the response back, otherwise we'll send the error. Okay, so when this ACL will not match, it will send the unauthorized error back. Okay, so we'll just go back here and we'll just remove this ACL. This is out of the box ACL, and we'll just add our own ACL here. Okay, okay, we have added this ACL. Now we'll just save this. This is how we can restrict the access to certain users. Okay, so this is how we can use scripted REST API and add the custom code and send the custom response back. And this is how we can do the inbound integration. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, then please hit the thumb icon and share the video with your friends, and add your valuable suggestions in the comment, and subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Thank you.